The night my wife framed me for cheating, I did not get angry. I smiled, because she did not know she was not my wife anymore. The video went viral within hours. 20 million views by morning. Me, supposedly caught in a hotel room with another woman. Photos, text messages, bank transfers, all perfectly staged, all completely fake. My phone exploded with messages. Friends demanding explanations. Business partners distancing themselves. My mother crying, asking how I could do this to Victoria. Victoria, my beautiful, charming wife of 7 years, standing before cameras with tears streaming down her perfect face, playing the devastated spouse so convincingly that even I almost believed her pain was real. I trusted him completely, she sobbed to reporters outside our house. I gave him everything, and this is how he repays me. The media ate it up. I was the villain in a story the world already knew by heart. Successful man, devoted wife, inevitable betrayal. Except they did not know the real story. They did not know that 3 years ago, I had discovered the truth about Victoria. They did not know I had been planning this moment ever since. And they definitely did not know that the woman crying on television was not legally my wife. She had not been for 3 years. I sat in my apartment watching the news coverage, drinking coffee, completely calm. My lawyer had warned me this moment would come. When she realizes the frame failed, she'll come after you harder, he had said. I had prepared for that too. Everything was ready. The evidence, the documents, the final revelation that would destroy her completely. But first, I needed everyone to see her at her most triumphant, her most confident, her most certain of victory, because the fall from that height would be devastating. 7 years earlier, I met Victoria at a charity gala. She was stunning in a red dress, laughing with a group of wealthy donors. I was newly successful, my tech startup finally profitable after years of struggle. "You're Kane," she said, approaching me with a champagne glass. "I've read about your company. Very impressive. Thank you. And you are?" "Victoria Ashford. I work in marketing." She smiled, and I was captivated. We talked for hours that night. About business, about dreams, about the future we both wanted. She was intelligent, ambitious, and charming. Everything I thought I wanted in a partner. We married within a year. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. How she always knew exactly what to say. How she adapted perfectly to any situation. How she made me feel like I was the center of her world, while somehow always getting exactly what she wanted. But I was in love, blinded by it. She moved into my house, quit her job, saying she wanted to support my career. I paid off her student loans, gave her access to my accounts, put her name on property deeds because she said it made her feel secure. "We're a team now," she would say. "What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours." Except she never had anything that was hers. Everything came from me. But I told myself that was what marriage meant. Sharing everything. Trusting completely. For 3 years, I believed we were happy. I worked long hours building my company. She managed our household, planned our social calendar, and played the perfect wife at every business dinner. Then one night, I came home early from a conference. The house was dark except for a light in her study. I heard her voice, low and intimate, laughing in a way she never laughed with me anymore. I stood in the hallway, frozen. Victoria's voice drifted from her study, and she was speaking to someone on the phone. "No, he has no idea. He's so trusting, it's almost pathetic." My heart stopped. Of course I'll get everything. The prenup was his idea, but I had my lawyer add clauses he never read carefully. When we divorce, I'll take at least 60% of his assets. I felt the floor drop out from under me. This could not be real. This could not be my wife. The house is already in both our names. The company shares too. He signed everything I put in front of him because he thinks love means blind trust. She laughed again. "No, I don't feel guilty. He's just a stepping stone. Once I have the money, we can finally be together properly. You, me, and the life we always planned." I backed away slowly, careful not to make a sound. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Who was she talking to? How many of our years together had been a lie? I left the house and drove aimlessly for hours. By dawn, I had made a decision. I was not going to confront her. I was not going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was going to be smarter. I was going to beat her at her own game. The next day, I went to work like nothing had happened. Kissed her goodbye, like always. Told her I loved her like I had every morning of our marriage. But I also did something else. I hid a small recording device in her study, in the lamp on her desk, where she always sat to take her private calls. If she was planning to destroy me, I needed evidence. I needed to know everything. Over the next 2 weeks, I collected hours of recordings. Victoria talked to her lover almost every night. His name was Damien Cross. They had been together for 5 years, since before she met me. He was the perfect mark, Victoria said in one recording. Successful but lonely, desperate for someone to love him. I knew from the first conversation he would give me everything I wanted. And you're sure about the timeline? Damien's voice asked. Completely sure. Another 6 months, maybe a year. Then we file for divorce, take half his fortune, and disappear. He'll be too heartbroken to fight it properly. What if he does fight it? He won't. Men like Marcus think love conquers all. He'll convince himself I had reasons for leaving, that he failed me somehow. He'll pay anything to make the guilt go away. She knew me so well, or she thought she did. The recordings got worse. They discussed which properties to target, how to manipulate me into signing over more assets, how to make sure the divorce happened in a jurisdiction favorable to her. We should go to Soraya, Damien suggested. The divorce laws there are perfect for this. Unilateral divorce heavily favors the spouse claiming emotional abandonment, and foreign divorces are recognized internationally. Soraya, a small island nation I had never heard of. I researched it immediately. Damien was right. Soraya's laws were unusual, designed to protect spouses in the tourism industry who were often abandoned by foreign partners. But the laws work both ways. If I filed first, if I did it correctly, I could divorce Victoria without her even knowing until it was too late. And that was exactly what I was going to do. I consulted with a lawyer who specialized in international family law. Her name was Helena Park, and she had handled cases in Soraya before. It's legally sound, Helena confirmed after reviewing the recordings. Soraya allows unilateral divorce under specific circumstances. You need to establish residency briefly, file the papers, serve her in a way that complies with their laws, and wait for the mandatory period to pass. How long? 45 days from filing to finalization, assuming she doesn't contest. But here's the key. If she doesn't respond to the service within 30 days, the divorce proceeds automatically. Many people don't realize they've been served because the notification methods are unconventional. What kind of methods? Email to a registered address, publication in a designated newspaper, or hand delivery witnessed by a Sorayan official. Any of those count as legal service under their law. My mind was already working. So if I could get her to Soraya, get her to sign something she thinks is unrelated, the divorce could finalize without her understanding what she signed. Yes. Helena looked at me seriously. But you need to be very careful. If she finds out before it's finalized, she could contest it. The whole plan falls apart. She won't find out, I said, because I'm going to make her think we're celebrating. I spent the next month preparing everything. I established residency in Soraya through a business investment. Their laws allowed it. I hired local attorneys to prepare the divorce papers in both English and Sorayan. I planned every detail. Then I told Victoria I had a surprise. We're going on vacation, I announced over dinner. Soraya, I've been working too hard. We need time together. Victoria's eyes lit up. That sounds wonderful. When? Next month. I've already booked everything. 5-star resort. Private beach. Just us. She kissed me, and I felt nothing. Just cold calculation. You're the best husband, she said. If only she knew. We arrived in Soraya on a sunny morning. The island was beautiful. White sand beaches, crystal water, luxury resorts. Victoria was thrilled. "This is exactly what we needed," she said, holding my hand as we checked into the resort. That afternoon, we met with a resort concierge, who was actually my Surayan attorney. He was dressed casually, playing the role perfectly. "Welcome to Suraya. We have some paperwork for your stay. Liability waivers, activity releases, standard resort documents. Just signatures on each page." He laid out a stack of papers in front of us. Victoria barely glanced at them. She was checking her phone, texting someone. Probably Damien. "Honey, can you sign mine too?" she asked absently. "My nails are still wet from the spa." "Of course," I said. I signed my real name on my documents. Then, I signed her name on hers, my hand shaking slightly. She did not even notice. Among those resort documents were the divorce papers, written in Surayan with English translations buried in the fine print. By the time we left that office, Victoria had been legally served with divorce notification. The clock was ticking. We spent 3 weeks in Suraya. Victoria loved every minute. We went snorkeling, had romantic dinners, and took sunset walks on the beach. She had no idea that every day brought her closer to losing everything. On our last night, I took her to an expensive restaurant overlooking the ocean. "This has been perfect," Victoria said, raising her wine glass. "Thank you for this, for reminding me why we're so good together." I clinked my glass against hers. "To us," I said, "and to the future." 23 days later, back in the city, the divorce finalized. I received notification from Helena via encrypted email. "It's done. You are legally divorced. The decree is registered in Suraya and recognized internationally. Congratulations." Victoria had no idea. She still called herself my wife. Still lived in my house. Still plotted with Damien about how to destroy me. But legally, she was nothing to me. No claim to my assets. No rights as a spouse. Nothing. I spent the next 3 years preparing for this moment. I transferred assets carefully, created trusts, moved investments into protected accounts. Everything I did was legal, documented, and completely hidden from Victoria. She grew more confident during those years, more certain of her plan. She started asking me to sign more documents. "Just updating our estate planning," she would say, "making sure we're both protected." I signed nothing without having Helena review it first. Most documents were harmless. Some were traps. I redirected her traps while appearing to comply. Meanwhile, Victoria and Damien grew bolder. They stopped being so careful about their relationship. I found hotel receipts. Saw charges on her credit card for 2 people at romantic restaurants. She thought I was too trusting to notice. She was wrong. I noticed everything. I documented everything. And I waited for the perfect moment to reveal what I knew. That moment came when Victoria finally decided to execute her plan. I knew it was coming because I had never removed the recording device from her study. "It's time," she told Damien one night. "I've squeezed everything I can from this marriage. Let's finish this." How? Frame him for cheating. Make it public. Make it devastating. Then file for divorce while he's too disoriented to fight properly. We'll paint him as the villain, and I'll walk away with everything. What kind of frame? Photos. Text messages. Bank transfers to a fictional mistress. I have someone who'll pose as the other woman. We'll leak it to social media, let it go viral. By the time Marcus realizes what happened, his reputation will be destroyed and I'll have everything. My hands clenched as I listened to the recording. So that was her plan. Complete destruction. Not just taking my money, but ruining my name, my business, my life. 3 days later, the photos appeared online. Me, supposedly with another woman. The images were doctored but convincing. The story went viral immediately. The fabricated evidence was everywhere within hours. Photos of me entering a hotel with a woman I had never met. Text messages from my phone to hers saying intimate things I never wrote. Bank transfers from my account to hers, labeled as gifts. It was elaborate, professional. convincing. My phone rang constantly. Friends demanding explanations. Business partners calling emergency meetings. Clients threatening to pull contracts. Marcus, what the hell? My best friend Tyler's voice was sharp. Everyone's sending me these photos. Tell me they're not real. They're not, I said calmly. Someone fabricated them. Who would do that? My wife. Silence. Then, Victoria? Why would she? Because she's been planning to destroy me for years. This is just the final move. That's insane. Victoria loves you. Victoria loves my money. There's a difference. I could hear Tyler's confusion, his disbelief. He had known Victoria as long as I had believed the same lies I once believed. What are you going to do? Tyler asked. Win, I said simply. I hung up and looked at the news coverage on my laptop. Victoria was already giving interviews, crying, playing the devastated wife perfectly. I don't know how long it's been going on, she told a reporter, dabbing her eyes. I trusted him completely. I feel so betrayed. The comments online were brutal. People calling me every terrible name, demanding I lose my business, threatening me with violence. I was the villain in a story millions of people believed. And that was exactly where I needed to be. Because the higher Victoria climbed on her lies, the harder she would fall when the truth came out. Helena called. The media coverage is bad. Your reputation is being destroyed. Are you sure you want to wait? I'm sure, I said. Let her think she's winning. Let her celebrate. The truth will be so much more devastating if it comes when she thinks she's already won. And when will that be? Soon, I promised. Very soon. 3 years had passed since that vacation to Soraya. 3 years since I had quietly divorced Victoria without her knowledge. And now, as she executed her frame, I was finally ready to reveal everything. But I needed one more piece. Damien Cross. I hired a private investigator to find everything about him. His background, his finances, his weaknesses. What I discovered was perfect. Damien was not just Victoria's boyfriend. He was a con artist with a history of seducing wealthy women and helping them defraud their husbands. Victoria was not his first victim. She was his third. The previous 2 cases had ended badly, one in prison, one in exile. Damien always managed to escape consequences by selling out his partners. He was going to do the same thing to Victoria. I just needed to give him a reason. So I set up a meeting. Not directly. That would be too obvious. Instead, I had my investigator leak information to Damien. Information that suggested Victoria's frame was falling apart. That I had evidence proving my innocence. That lawsuits were coming. I made Damien think the plan was failing. 3 days later, my investigator reported back. He's panicking. Made 3 calls to Victoria today. She keeps telling him everything's fine, but he's not convinced. Perfect. Fear makes people careless. And careless people make mistakes. Victoria's next interview was scheduled for the following evening. A primetime special on a major network. The full story of betrayal and heartbreak. The promo showed her in our living room, surrounded by photo albums and wedding pictures. He destroyed our perfect life. Her voice said over dramatic music. But I'm going to tell the truth. I watched the promo with Helena. That's your moment, she said. Right before the interview airs. That's when you release everything. I nodded. The timing had to be perfect. Too early, and she could spin the story. Too late, and she could disappear. But right before that interview, when she was on camera, confident, ready to play the victim, that would be beautiful. The day of Victoria's interview, I prepared everything. Helena had compiled all the evidence into a single digital file. The Sorayan divorce decree. The recordings of Victoria and Damien planning to defraud me. The investigators' report on Damien's past scams. The evidence proving the photos and messages were fabricated. Everything. Are you ready for this? Helena asked. Once you release this, there's no going back. Your private life becomes public. Everyone will know everything. They already think they know everything, I said. At least this way, they'll know the truth. 2 hours before Victoria's interview was scheduled to air, I posted the file online. Not to social media, directly. That would be too easy to dismiss as revenge. Instead, I sent it to a journalist, Veronica Hayes. She was known for investigative pieces exposing fraud. She had credibility that would make the evidence undeniable. This is explosive. Veronica called me minutes after I sent the file. Is all of this real? The divorce decree, the recordings, everything. Everything is real. Everything is documented. And you can verify it all independently. Why bring this to me instead of posting it yourself? Because if I post it, people will think I'm just trying to avoid responsibility. But if you investigate and confirm it, the truth becomes undeniable. Veronica was silent for a moment. This will destroy her. She tried to destroy me first, I said. I'm just defending myself with the truth. An hour later, Veronica's article went live. Victoria Kane's fraud. The elaborate scheme to frame an innocent man. It included everything. The divorce decree showing we had not been married for 3 years. The recordings of Victoria and Damien planning the fraud. The evidence that the photos and messages were fabricated. The article went viral faster than Victoria's original accusation. Within minutes, people who had condemned me were demanding apologies. Within an hour, Victoria's interview was canceled. Victoria's world collapsed in real time. I watched it happen from my apartment, tracking social media, news coverage, and public reaction. The hashtag shifted from hashtag Marcus Kane is canceled to hashtag Victoria Kane is a fraud within 30 minutes. People who had believed her were furious at being manipulated. She played us all, one viral tweet said. She weaponized our sympathy and used it to destroy an innocent man. The news networks scrambled. The show that was supposed to air Victoria's interview instead ran a special report on the fraud. They brought in legal experts to discuss the Surayan divorce. This is unprecedented, one lawyer said on camera. She's been living as his wife for 3 years while legally being nothing more than a fraud. Victoria's phone number was leaked online. People called her constantly, leaving angry messages. Her social media accounts were flooded with accusations and threats. She locked down everything, but it was too late. Screenshots circulated everywhere. Old posts of her playing the devoted wife now looked like evidence of long-term deception. Photos of her and Damien were discovered and shared. People dug through their history, finding receipts, plane tickets, hotel reservations. Evidence of their relationship going back years. She cheated on him. Became the narrative. Then framed him for cheating to steal his money. It was poetic justice. Everything she had tried to do to me was happening to her instead. But I was not finished yet. The social media destruction was satisfying, but I wanted legal consequences too. I wanted her to face real penalties for what she had tried to do. Helena filed lawsuits. Fraud. Defamation. Attempted theft. Conspiracy. Each charge was backed by overwhelming evidence. This is going to take years to resolve, Helena warned. And it's going to be expensive. I don't care, I said. I want her to face every possible consequence. That evening, Victoria tried to call me. I did not answer. She sent text messages. Desperate. Panicked. Marcus, please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. I deleted them without responding. She had nothing I wanted to hear. Damien Cross panicked faster than I expected. Within 48 hours of the story breaking, he contacted Veronica Hayes, offering to tell the truth. I was manipulated by Victoria, he claimed in an interview. She told me Marcus was abusive, that she needed help escaping. I thought I was helping a victim. It was a lie, and everyone knew it. But Damien was trying to save himself, even if it meant destroying Victoria completely. She planned everything, Damien continued. The fake photos, the false messages, the media strategy. I just helped because I believed her story. Veronica pushed him. You've done this before though, haven't you? We found 2 other cases where you helped women defraud their husbands. Damien stammered. Those were different. Those women were actually conning wealthy men with your help, Veronica interrupted. Just like Victoria. The only difference is this time, the husband was prepared. The interview destroyed any sympathy Damien might have had. People saw him for what he was, a serial con artist trying to escape consequences by blaming his partner. Victoria, watching from wherever she was hiding, must have felt completely betrayed. The man she had planned her future with had sold her out to save himself. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You win. Just stop. Please." I knew it was Victoria. She was begging now. But I was not going to stop. Not yet. I responded with a single sentence. "You tried to destroy my entire life. Did you think there would be no consequences?" 3 dots appeared as she typed. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, a message came through. "What do you want? Money? I'll give you everything back. Just make this stop." Everything back. As if she had anything to give. As if she still did not understand that legally, she had never been entitled to anything in the first place. I did not respond. Instead, I forwarded her message to Helena. More evidence of her acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The public fascination with the story grew daily. True crime podcasts analyzed every detail. YouTube lawyers broke down the legal aspects. TikTok was flooded with videos discussing the case. Everyone had an opinion. Some people praised me for the elaborate revenge. Others questioned whether my methods were ethical, even if they were legal. "He's a genius," one viral video said. He documented everything, protected himself legally, and waited for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. Another video took the opposite view. He lied to her for 3 years. Let her think she was his wife while planning this entire revenge. That's psychologically abusive. I did not care about the ethical debates. I cared about the truth being known. Victoria had tried to frame me as a cheater. She had tried to steal everything I had built. And now the world knew exactly what she really was. My company stock actually rose during the scandal. Investors saw me as a careful, strategic thinker who had protected his assets. Clients who had threatened to leave actually increased their business. "You showed incredible restraint," one CEO told me. "Most men would have reacted emotionally. You reacted strategically. That's the kind of person I want to do business with." The irony was not lost on me. Victoria had tried to destroy my professional reputation. Instead, she had inadvertently enhanced it. But the personal costs were real. My mother was devastated by the whole situation. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked tearfully. "Why did I have to find out from the news that you've been divorced for 3 years?" "Because Victoria would have found out if I told anyone," I explained. "I needed complete secrecy to make this work. But 3 years, Marcus. 3 years of lying to everyone. 3 years of protecting myself from someone who wanted to destroy me," I corrected gently. She did not understand. Most people did not. They saw the revenge, but not the necessity that drove it. Helena called with updates on the legal proceedings. Victoria's lawyers are trying to negotiate. They want to settle everything quietly, avoid a trial. What are they offering? Full admission of wrongdoing. Agreement to never contact you again. Waiver of any claims to your assets. They'll pay your legal fees and issue a public apology. It was everything I should have wanted. Complete victory without the mess of a trial. But it felt incomplete. "No," I said. "We go to trial. I want everything on the public record. I want a judge to formally find her guilty of fraud." "That's risky," Helena warned. "Trials are unpredictable, and it will be expensive and time-consuming." "I don't care. She tried to destroy me publicly. She needs to face public consequences." Helena sighed. "All right. But understand, this will dominate your life for the next year or more. Every detail will be examined. Your private life will be dissected in court." "My private life has already been dissected online," I pointed out. "At least in court, I can control the narrative with evidence." The trial date was set for 8 months later. In the meantime, more details emerged about Victoria and Damien's scheme. Investigators found evidence that they had been planning this for over 4 years. Since before I even took Victoria to Soraya. "They were going to frame you regardless," Helena explained. "The Soraya divorce just complicated their plan. They had to proceed anyway because they were already in too deep. It was disturbing to realize how thoroughly they had plotted against me. How Victoria had smiled at me every morning while planning my destruction. How every loving gesture had been part of the con. People online debated whether I should have confronted Victoria earlier. Whether divorcing her secretly was ethical. Whether my revenge was justified or cruel. I did not participate in these debates. I had said everything I needed to say through the evidence. The truth spoke for itself. As the trial date approached, more of Victoria's victims came forward. Women she had befriended and manipulated. Business partners she had scammed. Former employers she had stolen from. Victoria Kane is a serial con artist. One woman told Veronica Hayes in an interview. She befriended me, learned about my husband's business, and then tried to seduce him to get inside information. When that failed, she spread rumors that destroyed my marriage anyway. Each story added to the picture of who Victoria really was. A predator who targeted successful, trusting people and exploited their kindness. Damien's history was similarly exposed. 3 previous cases of fraud. 2 restraining orders. 1 arrest that had been dismissed on a technicality. They were perfect partners, a criminal psychologist said on a news special. Both sociopaths who found each other and perfected their scheme together. I watched these reports feeling validated, but also hollow. I had won. Victoria's reputation was destroyed. Her life was in ruins. But I did not feel the satisfaction I had expected. Instead, I felt tired. Empty. 3 years of planning and waiting and documenting had consumed me. I had sacrificed relationships, peace of mind, and countless hours to this revenge. Tyler visited me one evening. "You won," he said. "She's finished. Can you move on now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "For 3 years, my entire focus has been on exposing her. Now that it's done, I'm not sure what comes next." "Life comes next," Tyler said. "The life you put on hold while you plan this. Dating. Hobbies. Happiness. Remember happiness." I smiled slightly. Vaguely. "You need to let this go, Marcus. You proved your point. You won. Don't let her take any more of your life than she already has." He was right. But letting go felt impossible. This revenge had become part of my identity. Who was I without it? The trial began on a cold morning in October. The courthouse was surrounded by media. Cameras everywhere. Reporters shouting questions. Inside, Victoria sat at the defense table looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was different. Her clothes were plain. She looked like she had aged 10 years in 3 months. Our eyes met briefly. She looked away immediately, her face pale. Damien sat separately. He had cut a deal with prosecutors, agreeing to testify against Victoria in exchange for reduced charges. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. They presented the recordings, the fabricated evidence, the testimony from Damien and others involved in the scheme. This was not a crime of passion or desperation, the prosecutor argued. This was a calculated, long-term scheme to defraud an innocent man. The defendant spent years planning this. Years pretending to be a loving wife while plotting to destroy her husband. Victoria's lawyer tried to argue that she had been manipulated by Damien, that she was a victim too. But the evidence showed otherwise. The recordings proved she had been an active, willing participant. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victoria's lawyer said in his opening statement, "my client made terrible choices. She was involved in a scheme that was wrong. But she was not the mastermind. She was a woman manipulated by a professional con artist who exploited her insecurities." It was a weak defense, and everyone in the courtroom knew it. Over the next 3 days, the prosecution built an airtight case. Witnesses testified. Documents were presented. The jury watched video of Victoria discussing the fraud with Damien. Then it was time for me to testify. I took the stand and told the truth. About discovering Victoria's plan. About secretly divorcing her. About documenting everything for 3 years. "Why didn't you just confront her?" the prosecutor asked. "Why go through this elaborate plan?" Because confronting her would have meant a messy divorce, probably losing half my assets, and never having proof of her real intentions. I needed to protect myself completely, and I needed the truth to be undeniable. Victoria's lawyer cross-examined me aggressively. Mr. Kane, you lied to your wife for 3 years. You let her believe she was married to you while secretly divorcing her. Don't you think that's cruel? She was planning to defraud me, I responded. Was I supposed to make it easy for her? You could have been honest. You could have filed for divorce properly and let the courts handle it. And give her the opportunity to hide assets, to destroy evidence, to disappear before facing consequences. I looked directly at the jury. I did what I had to do to protect myself from someone who wanted to destroy me. But you enjoyed it, didn't you? Victoria's lawyer pressed. You enjoyed watching her think she was winning while you planned her destruction. I paused. It was a trap question. If I said yes, I looked vindictive. If I said no, I looked dishonest. I didn't enjoy it, I said finally. But I don't regret it. She tried to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. She tried to steal everything I had worked for. What I did was defend myself. The cross-examination continued for hours. Victoria's lawyer tried to paint me as controlling, manipulative, and vengeful. But the evidence kept coming back to one simple fact. Victoria had tried to defraud me, and I had protected myself. After 4 days of testimony, both sides rested their cases. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, Victoria stood with her lawyer, her face expressionless. On the charge of fraud, how do you find the defendant? The jury foreman stood. Guilty. Victoria's knees buckled. Her lawyer caught her. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud. Guilty. For more charges. For more guilty verdicts. Victoria was convicted on every count. Sentencing would come later, but the verdict was clear. She was facing years in prison. As the judge dismissed the court, Victoria finally looked at me. Her expression was a mixture of hatred, despair, and disbelief. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just emptiness. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Marcus, how do you feel about the verdict? Justice was served, I said simply. That's all I wanted. Do you forgive Victoria? I paused at that question. Forgiveness. I had not thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't forgive her. But I'm done thinking about her. This chapter's closed. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. The judge sentenced Victoria to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of probation. She would also be required to pay full restitution for all legal fees and damages. Ms. Kane, the judge said sternly, you orchestrated an elaborate fraud against someone who trusted you. You weaponized that trust to try to destroy him financially and socially. The betrayal was calculated and cruel. This sentence reflects the seriousness of your actions. Victoria said nothing. She was led away in handcuffs, her face blank. Damien received 3 years for his cooperation. He would serve his sentence at a different facility, far from Victoria. As I left the courthouse that final time, Veronica Hayes approached. I'm doing a follow-up piece. Final thoughts on the whole saga. I considered. What could I say that would encompass everything? I trusted someone completely, and she betrayed me in the worst way possible. But I didn't let that betrayal destroy me. I protected myself, documented the truth, and made sure justice was served. That's the story. Do you regret the 3 years you spent planning this? I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. Veronica nodded. One more question. Would you ever trust someone like that again? It was the question I had been avoiding. The question that haunted me. I don't know, I admitted. Victoria taught me that people can pretend to be something they're not for years. How do you ever really know who someone is? Maybe you don't, Veronica said. Maybe trust is always a risk. She was right. But knowing that did not make it easier. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment. The same apartment where I had watched Victoria's frame go viral. Where I had planned my response. Where I had spent 3 years living a double life. It was over. Victoria was in prison. My reputation was restored. My assets were protected. I had won completely. So why did I feel so empty? The viral attention continued even after the trial. My story became a cautionary tale shared across social media. Never betray someone smart enough to outplan you became a popular meme. Videos analyzing my strategy got millions of views. But I stopped following the coverage. I deleted social media from my phone. I needed distance from the whole thing. My company flourished. Without the distraction of Victoria's scheme, I threw myself into work. We launched 3 new products. Revenue doubled. I was more successful than ever. But I was also alone. Tyler tried to set me up on dates. You need to get back out there, he insisted. Not everyone is like Victoria. I know, I said. But how do you ever really trust someone after this? By choosing to. By accepting that risk is part of life. I went on a few dates. They were fine. The women were nice. But I found myself analyzing everything. Looking for warning signs. Questioning motives. Trust, once broken so completely, was nearly impossible. 3 months after Victoria's sentencing, I received a letter. It came from the prison where she was serving her sentence. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Marcus, it began. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I understand what I did was unforgivable. I destroyed someone who loved me. I weaponized that love for greed and selfishness. There are no excuses. No justifications. I was a monster, and I'm facing the consequences I deserve. The letter continued for 3 pages. She talked about therapy in prison, about finally understanding the harm she had caused, about the person she had become and the person she wanted to be. I know this means nothing to you, she wrote at the end, but I'm truly sorry. Not because I got caught, not because I'm in prison, but because I hurt someone who deserved better. You deserved honesty, loyalty, and love. Instead, I gave you betrayal. That's something I'll carry for the rest of my life. I read the letter twice. Then I put it in a drawer and never looked at it again. A year after the trial, Veronica Hayes published a documentary about the entire case. The Perfect Revenge, How Marcus Kane Outsmarted His Con Artist Wife, became one of the most watched documentaries of the year. It featured interviews with everyone involved. Lawyers, investigators, Damien's previous victims, people who knew Victoria. I declined to participate directly. The evidence speaks for itself, I told Veronica. I don't need to explain anything further. But the documentary included footage from the trial, recordings of Victoria's conversations, analysis of how I had executed my plan. People were fascinated by the strategic patience, by how I had maintained the facade for 3 years while building an airtight case. He's like a chess master, one legal expert said in the documentary. He thought 15 moves ahead while his opponent was still planning their next move. The documentary also explored the ethics. Was what I did justified? Was it revenge or self-defense? Technically, everything he did was legal, one law professor explained. The Surayan divorce was valid. The recordings were legal in his state. Even the public exposure was defended as necessary to counter false accusations. But morally, that's more complicated. I watched the documentary alone in my apartment. Seeing the whole story laid out like that was surreal. It felt like watching someone else's life. The final segment addressed where everyone was now. Victoria in prison. Damien in prison. Me, successful but isolated. Marcus Kane won completely, Veronica concluded. But victory came at a cost. He spent 3 years living a lie. He sacrificed relationships, peace of mind, and his ability to trust. The question isn't whether he was right to do what he did. The question is whether it was worth it. I turned off the television and sat in silence. Was it worth it? I had protected my assets, exposed Victoria's fraud, and ensured she faced consequences. But I had also spent 3 years consumed by anger and planning. 3 years where every interaction with Victoria was calculated. Every smile was fake. Every word was measured. The documentary reignited public interest in the case. My phone filled with interview requests, book deal offers, and speaking invitations. Tell your story. How to protect yourself from fraud was the pitch from multiple publishers. I declined everything. I did not want to be known as the guy who outsmarted his con artist wife for the rest of my life. But the attention had one unexpected consequence. It brought someone back into my life. Marcus. The voice on my office phone was familiar but unexpected. It's Sophia. Sophia Chun. Sophia. My girlfriend from college. Before Victoria. Before everything. Sophia. Wow. It's been, 10 years? Almost 12, she said. I saw the documentary. I had to reach out. Are you okay? The question caught me off guard. Most people wanted to know about the revenge, the strategy, the victory. Nobody asked if I was okay. Honestly, I don't know, I admitted. We talked for an hour. About the case, about life, about everything that had happened in the 12 years since we had last spoken. Can I take you to coffee? Sophia asked. Just as old friends. No pressure. I hesitated. Then, yes. I'd like that. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. Sophia looked good, older but in a good way. Confident. Settled. I followed the whole story, she said after we ordered. Everyone did. But watching that documentary, Marcus, you seemed so isolated. So calculating. That's not the person I remember. Victoria changed me, I admitted. The betrayal, the planning, it turned me into someone I don't recognize sometimes. Or maybe it just made you careful. Protective. That's not the same as being broken. We talked for hours. About her life. She was a doctor now, recently divorced herself. About my life beyond the Victoria saga. About whether people could ever really recover from that kind of betrayal. My ex-husband cheated, Sophia said. It destroyed me at first. But eventually, I realized something. His betrayal was about his character, not my worth. The same is true for you and Victoria. It was simple wisdom, but it resonated. Victoria's betrayal reflected her moral bankruptcy, not any failure on my part. Over the following months, Sophia and I became close again. Not romantically at first. Just friends who understood what betrayal felt like. She never pushed me to open up. Never demanded trust. She just existed in my life as someone safe and genuine. Slowly, I found myself relaxing around her. Laughing genuinely. Discussing things beyond business and legal strategy. Tyler noticed. You're different. Lighter maybe. It's good to see. 6 months after reconnecting, Sophia and I went to dinner at a nice restaurant. As we talked, I realized something. I was falling for her. Again. Or maybe still. I need to be honest with you, I said over dessert. I'm damaged from what happened with Victoria. I don't know if I can trust the way I used to. If I can be vulnerable again. Sophia reached across the table and took my hand. I'm damaged too. From my ex. From my own betrayal. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need to be perfect. We just need to be honest. I want to try, I said. With you. But it terrifies me. Good, Sophia smiled. If you weren't scared, you wouldn't be taking it seriously. We started dating officially. Taking it slow. Being honest about our fears and insecurities. It was different from Victoria. Less intense. Less consuming. But healthier. Sophia never asked for access to my accounts. Never pushed to move in quickly. She maintained her independence while building something real with me. This is what partnership actually looks like, she said one evening. 2 whole people choosing each other. Not one person absorbing the other. Meanwhile, Victoria's prison sentence continued. I never visited. Never responded to her letters. That chapter was closed completely. Damien was released after serving 2 years. I heard he left the country, probably to avoid the lawsuits still pending against him. I did not care what happened to either of them. They were part of my past, not my present. 2 years after Victoria's conviction, a new document surfaced. A paralegal going through old files discovered something interesting. Victoria had been under investigation for fraud even before she met me. Look at this. Helena showed me the documents. The police were building a case against her for a different scam. But they dropped it when she got married to you. They thought she had settled down. The investigation detailed Victoria's pattern. She would target wealthy men, charm them, manipulate them, and then move on with whatever she could take. I wasn't her first victim, I realized. Or even her second. No, Helena confirmed. You were number 5 that we can document. There are probably more. It was disturbing, but also clarifying. Victoria had not betrayed me because of anything I did. She was simply a predator who had found her prey. The old investigation was reopened. Several of Victoria's previous victims came forward, emboldened by my case. You gave us courage, one man told me in an email. Seeing you fight back and when showed us we weren't alone, that we weren't stupid for being deceived. Victoria faced additional charges. Her sentence was extended by 3 years. I did not attend those hearings. I had said everything I needed to say. The rest was just confirming what I already knew. Victoria was exactly who I had exposed her to be. The additional publicity brought more attention to the case. But this time, the focus shifted. Marcus Kane's case exposed a serial con artist, One News special reported. But it also raised questions about how these schemes persist. How do people like Victoria Kane and Damian Cross continue to find victims? The conversation became bigger than just my story. It became about protecting others. Several states introduced legislation requiring disclosure of previous fraud convictions in divorce proceedings. Support groups formed for victims of romantic fraud. My revenge had become something larger, a catalyst for systemic change. You started something important, Sophia told me. What happened to you is helping prevent it from happening to others. It was the first time I felt genuine peace about everything. My suffering had meaning beyond just personal vindication. 3 years after Victoria's original sentencing, I proposed to Sophia. Not with drama or grand gestures. Just a quiet evening at home, being honest about my feelings. I love you, I told her. And I'm ready to trust completely again. Will you marry me? Sophia cried. Yes. But Marcus, I need to tell you something first. My heart stopped. Here it comes, I thought. The other shoe dropping. I'm scared too, Sophia said. My ex destroyed my ability to trust easily. So if we do this, we do it with complete honesty. Complete transparency. No secrets. Relief flooded through me. Yes, that's exactly what I want. We planned a small wedding. Just close friends and family. No media. No publicity. Just us. Choosing each other with full knowledge of our scars and fears. Tyler was my best man. I'm proud of you, he said before the ceremony. You survived Victoria's betrayal. You protected yourself. And now you're choosing to be vulnerable again. That takes real courage. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. As Sophia and I exchanged vows, I felt something I had not felt in years. Hope. Real, genuine hope for the future. I promise to be honest with you, I said. To trust you even when it's hard. To choose you every day not because I have to, but because I want to. I promise to earn that trust, Sophia replied. To be transparent. To build something real with you based on who we actually are, not who we pretend to be. It was everything my marriage to Victoria had not been. Built on truth instead of lies. On choice instead of manipulation. On love instead of greed. After the wedding, we honeymooned in Italy. Far from everything. Just us, finally at peace. One evening, watching the sunset over Florence, Sophia asked, "Do you ever think about her?" About Victoria. Sometimes, I admitted. Not with anger anymore. Just curiosity about how someone becomes that person. How they live with themselves. Maybe they don't, Sophia said. Maybe that's the real punishment. Living with who they are. 5 years after Victoria's conviction, she was released on parole. I learned about it from a news alert on my phone. Part of me tensed. After everything, would she try to contact me? To apologize or to threaten? But weeks passed, then months, with nothing. Victoria had disappeared into obscurity. I heard eventually that she had moved to a different state. Changed her name. Was trying to rebuild her life quietly. I did not care enough to investigate further. She was part of a past I had long since left behind. My life with Sophia was everything I had thought marriage should be. We built a home together, started a family, created something genuine and lasting. My company continued to thrive. I stepped back from day-to-day operations to spend more time with my family. The documentary about Victoria and me was still referenced occasionally. Remember that crazy case where the guy divorced his wife without her knowing? People would say. But it felt like someone else's story now. Something that had happened to a different version of me. Tyler visited one evening, holding my infant daughter while we talked. "You look happy," he observed. "Genuinely happy. Not just successful or satisfied. Actually happy." "I am," I said. And I meant it. "Do you regret how you handled everything with Victoria? The 3 years of planning, the public exposure." I thought about it carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that someone I loved turned out to be someone I needed to protect myself from. But the way I handled it? No. I did what I needed to do, to survive and to ensure she faced consequences. I don't apologize for that. But you're different now. More open. More trusting. What changed? "Sophia," I said simply. "She showed me that not everyone is Victoria. That trust is still possible if you choose the right person." As I said it, I realized how far I had come. From the man who discovered his wife's betrayal, to the man who spent 3 years planning revenge, to the man who could trust and love again. Victoria had tried to destroy me. In some ways, she had succeeded. The person I was before her betrayal was gone forever. But from those ashes, I had built something stronger. Not just professionally or financially, but emotionally. I had learned to protect myself without closing myself off. To be strategic without being cold. To seek justice without letting revenge consume me. The woman who had framed me for cheating never knew she was not my wife. And in trying to destroy me, she had freed me to become someone better. That was the real revenge. Not the public exposure or the prison sentence. Not the legal victories or the vindication. The real revenge was building a genuinely happy life after she had tried to ensure I would never have one. I looked at Sophia, at my daughter, at the home we had created, at the life Victoria had tried to steal from me. She had failed completely, and I had won in ways she could never touch. That night, I finally threw away the recordings. The evidence. All of it. I did not need them anymore. The story was over. Not because Victoria's sentence had ended, but because I had finally let go of the need to hold on to it. I had been vindicated. I had been proven right. I had